Hello and welcome back to What's Bubbling a ZIM Roll. I'm Dr. Abstract, and in this bubbling we're going to continue to take a look at what's new in ZIM 019. Let's go to the ZIM site now at zimjs.com and we'll go into what's new here. We've done a general bubbling, we've done bubblings on all these guys right up till our last one here, isometric. So let's have a look. Ooh, we have new isometric assets now. And this is a partial isometric board. We've added these new assets here, isometric assets from Kenny. So we'll take you through the zip file to show you that. And the one thing we found when we looked at the assets is they're not all at the same isometric ratio. So the isometric ratio is here's the width, and there's the height is the width to the height. And we always thought that was 2. We always thought that was just twice as big, and we made the game board like that initially. But as we looked through the assets, and there were many isometric assets, they were all slightly different. Well, many of them were 2, but many were 1.7 something. And so it was like, oh, geez, really? So we changed the board. We added an isometric ratio parameter, and you can set that to represent different isometric ratios, because if you've got the wrong ratio, then these things won't align properly. Probably you want your background set, anything on here, to be the same isometric ratio. Possibly your characters could be a slightly different one on top, but probably not. So I wouldn't recommend mixing isometric ratios. Also, Kenny had a bunch of 3D characters, and we put those into a left, right, forward, backwards, kind of 4 different views for those characters, and added them all to a sprite sheet. So that's in a zip file that's available for you. We're going to take a look at that. Why don't we take a look at the code behind here as well. So we'll drop this down. This isn't our only isometric example. We also have made other isometric things. So here's an example of how to move around things. So if I hit the move here, then our characters will move. In this case, in the traditional ones, we made the characters smaller as they get farther back. But now that we've got backgrounds that are made of isometric tiles that need to be all the same size, we can't have smaller tiles at the back and bigger ones at the front, because then they won't connect properly. So probably we want to avoid scaling our character. Now this character, when it's back here, its head just goes to about the middle. But when it's along here, this is done with pathfinding. Oh, we successfully went over the orb and it moved. But anyway, when the head is here, it's up higher. So this is a bigger character than that. Well, we've just scaled it bigger. So have a look here as to how to do that pathfinding. Another place for isometric and ZIM is down in the banner code here under games. There's the HTML5 games, and we did an isometric game inside here, this guy right here. And in this case, we have the character. As we move the character, it faces forward and then faces to the right. But all we're doing is actually switching the scale of this character, so it actually swaps, which means its hand swaps as well. So we'll want to arrange a system where as we move along here, the characters move 4 different ways depending on which way we're moving. But you can kind of get a sense from this example as to how we did switch or swap the scale, and then we could just swap the direction. Anyway, we're planning on doing some more with isometrics regarding this, because it was a pain in the neck to place all of these. We had to find out their names, figure out which tile to put them on, and that's why people make tile map tools, and we plan on bringing in some co-ops actually in the new year, and that is their challenge, to make a tile map tool. So and when we do that, we'll also take a look at how we animate objects along the tiles so that they can turn corners, switch directions, and go in behind things or not in behind things. Right now we have a bit of a problem. If I refresh here, the car, if I were animating the car along here, it would go on top of this tree rather than behind this tree. So that might be a slightly different issue than the tile map system. We'd have to, I don't know, cut out the tree and stick it on top, perhaps manually, not sure. All right, so our isometric board, we only have part of it here. Usually the board comes down like that, and we've done that on purpose just to, it looks kind of cool, doesn't it? We only need to demonstrate on this much. Let's go in and take a look at the code. So here's our code. We're bringing in 019 in the game module. And a message about the Kenny files. There's the zip file. We'll go take a look at that in a moment. And we are bringing in the different isometric sheets, sprite sheets for those. The Kenny files, I'll have them in XML, so we added parsing XML in that format to the ZIM sprite. And now that will get parsed here down below when we make a sprite from this somewhere. Right there, making a sprite, we'll be able to parse the XML. And there's the image of the PNG. These are the sprite sheets that we're accessing. And then we also pass in the names of the objects we want. So that comes down here. We want that, we want this, we want this guy. Okay, and to do that we made this make function, which I suppose just gives us the sprite from the sprite sheet, and then we're positioning it on the board. We're adding it to the board at these locations, and this was a pain in the neck to do, like I said. So we'll make it so that you can just see them, choose them, and add them to the board in place, and then all that data will be exported, and then we'll import it into the board. You can import board data. We'll import that, and it'll all be a lot easier. All right, but anyway, there's our make function to at least start making this a little bit easier so that we get a different sprite depending on what we ask for here. All right, there's the isometric board ratio. These ones that we're working with happen to be the expected isometric ratio of 2. And then also we've stopped scaling. So by default it will scale for you as you move up and down. We don't want to do that. If we didn't do that, we would get something that looks really crappy. Let's have a look. So you see how the edges of these no longer are perfect. Whoa, that's really off, isn't it? So as we move down, that's I don't know, just not being scaled properly. Okay, so if it was trying to attempt, it's getting closer, so it's scaling it bigger, but we don't want that. That was the one that was the closest, this one. You see that's back here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. This was almost halfway down the board. That would have, well, yeah, I guess there is no, oh, halfway down the board would be right here or here. And so it was scaling that bigger. So now they match up. What that means is probably our characters will be the same size, whether it's here or whether it's up here or whether it's right down here. And that's probably fine, I expect. Must be, because that's probably how isometric board games are made. Anything else to show there? No, I think we can probably, well, there we are adding each of them. We did make the car animate and stuff, so we'll take a look at the animation of the car after, but let's see what it was like to, how did we choose these and get their names in there. Okay, so that means we need to take a look at the ISO folder. So here's our isometric folder. We have a README right here that says it's a subsection of the Kenny games, and the Kenny games have 2D images, 3D images, isometric images, maybe some other things in them as well. Oh, yeah, models and stuff. I guess that's 3D. So we took out the isometric parts, and we also added the blocky characters and did this to them in a sense. So there's a characters PNG and a characters2.png. Shall we have a look there? So here is the character 2 PNG right there. And so all these are looking left, and then it was packed in there by Texture Packer, so it decided that to tuck in some of these on the side. But anyway, you figure out what a character is, and then you can match its number. So if we take a look at the character.json here, this is B left 01. So you would look for B right 01, and that would match. And then B, not BF, F0 and F1 are the fronts. I think that's it. So scroll way on down here. There's the front left and then front right. So FL and FR. Okay, just find a character you want and then keep the number, and you can get all four sides using the FL, FB, no, sorry, FR. So F is front, B is back, and then L and R are left and right. Okay, so we have an example of the character on there, like so. And let's see what else is in that zip file. I can't get to my bottom thing. Seems to be, that's annoying. When I open up the image, it stops my automatic taskbar from showing up there. Anyway, I put it on pause, fixed it up. I think we're good to go. Where were we though? We were back here. Oh yeah, looking through our folder. Okay, let's pull up the folder. Where's the folder? There she be. Okay, here are the isometric ones. By the way, there's the Kenny README as well, somewhere in here, right here. And you want to have a look at that, and please support Kenny. They've put a lot of work into this, and they're not asking for much. We supported them a little bit more than they're asking. But yeah, you should have a look at what he's got there. These are the isometric sections from that. Let's say look at the isometric mini golf. And there's a bunch of PNGs. So view by large icon. There they all are in there. And you could ask for those names and grab any of those. There's often a preview as well. Uh-oh, I just opened up the image. There's a preview image, and you can look at that. Do I still have my taskbar? Good, still have my taskbar. Preview image that you can check out on any of these. Some are quite elaborate. Remember, like Lego sets, and you get the here's what you can make. That's what they do on some of them. That's pretty cool. There's also a sprite sheet version. So here's the sprite sheet version right there. But to get to know what the names of those are, you need to look at the actual PNGs, probably. You can also, with the sprite sheet, you can take a look at the XML. But what we've done, I don't know if that's all that handy, because you'd have to coordinate where it is with the name of it. So yeah. Anyway, we made ZIM read this in. It's a nice simple XML format there. So you can access that in ZIM. That's nice. Oh, and there we go. We've lost our... we're back again. All right, back in the code. That is the ID without the... Don't worry about the PNG on the end of that. And this is being pulled from the base. So if we take a look specifically at this, for instance, here at 2.0 is landscape tile 67. It also shows up at 01. 2001. Let's have a look. 20 and 01. So 01 is here. So this is all the 0 in the X, and then Y's go 01. So there's 01. And then 2 in the X was 0, 1, 2 is this one, and 2, 0. So this is 2, 0, and that's 0, 1. And they're the same piece right there. So like I said, it was a pain in the neck. It would be much easier if we had a nice scroll thing here of the pieces, and we press it, and then we press a tile, and that piece just goes there. And then we can keep that data and export it. So that's what we've got. Some co-op students coming. That's what the co-ops will work on, something like that. That will be good for us to have. Yay! All right, the police car has put on there as well from the car pack, and there's the taxi. We animate the taxi, so let's see how we did that. Refresh here. There's the taxi animating along, and we did that with the move right here. Move the taxi from 0, or I guess move it 1 column, 1 in the X and 0 in the Y. Is that what it is? Move, or is this an index number? I can't remember. Let's try move 2 in the X and see if it goes off the end. I went off the end onto nothing. Cool. It's jumping. Okay, so move 1. Oh, that's this thing. Move 1. And that's the time that it takes to do that. But if you want to go around the corner, we don't exactly know how to do that yet. So we'll take a look at movements as well and switching directions. Here's our, we also need to keep that on the top. Otherwise it would go under the tile. So as it's moving down, this tile's actually above that tile, layer-wise. And so as the car comes, it's going to end up going under this one. So just watch that. Why don't we show you that? So if we're not bringing the taxi up to the top, probably would have been best to, I don't know, only do this ticker when it's actually moving and turn the ticker off when it's not moving. But here's what you would get. Oh, it okay, so it just went under this tile right here. So we want to, as it's animating, bring it up to the top. And that was done here. So the various nuances of handling that will try and help out a little bit, but I mean, it can be fixed now. You can carry on working with isometrics, but we'll try and make that a bit easier for everybody in the near future. So there's our sprite. He's coming from the characters PNG, and there's the JSON file, and he's called BR02. So that's the back right, and his number is 02. So if we want to check out the front right instead, so make him look front raised, then this should work. There he is. There's the little front of him. Isn't that cool? Okay, and if he were facing front left, then he would be FL here, like so. And we refresh here. And now he's looking to the left. And what do we have? We had back right, back left. Goes back right. Oh, let's undo. Back right, yeah. And that should make him look to the right here, the back of him as he's gazing at the scene, going, oh, I wonder if I can catch that taxi. Oh yeah, oh yeah. One thing to note is if we put our taxi up here and animate along, it would end up going on top of this tree, because this tree is part of the tile and we're on top of that tile. So we'd have to do a little tree cutout and probably just manually place those on top so the car goes, I don't know, it'd be tricky, but I'm sure it could be done. And then we're down to logo. There's the phone. That was my wife asking if we needed to get some milk. What a classic, huh? All right, we're back here. What were we thinking? Logo glitch, was that it? Are we done all that? I can't remember what we were talking about before the phone call. So I think we're good. That's the isometric system, and hope you're liking that. And like I said, give thanks to Kenny there. There's more information in the zip file how you can find his assets. And we'll talk to you later. This is Dr. Abstract, taking a look at the isometric assets and again the isometric ratio to be able to handle. Oh, right, nearly forgot. Let me show you where we can find that isometric ratio stuff. So if you are in the mini golf here or any of the sets, there's the tile info page here, and the tile info page has the isometric ratio, which is different than 2. So we'd have to do something different for these guys. All right, so just have a look at any of desktop reveal at any of the sets there, and you can figure that out. All right, take it easy. Have a great day or night. This is our last specific bubbling that we're doing, but we will do bubbling on any minor updates that we did there. I know there's a couple that you'll be quite interested in, so check those out and check out the previous bubblings. Come visit us at the forum, zimjs.com/. forum or zimjs.com/discord. Nearly said Slack. Slack was our old forum. All right, take it easy. Ciao.